Hi all, for our second instructive game today, I'm going to take one of my own games from the Let's Play Chess.com site. It was a kind of blitz correspondence game. I don't spend as long as I could do on moves, and my opponent is also a very fast correspondence player, Black Croman. So if you want your correspondence game to be over in a day or two, then challenge him for a game there. He played f4, the bird's opening, which is a great specialist in. I played now d5. I didn't want to play the From's gambit, which is e5, because he knows exactly what to do about this gambit. He's even got some dedicated books, I believe, and he wouldn't transpose it into the king's engine with e4. He would take this, and after d6 takes, bishop takes, knight f3, g5. There's a lot of theory on this opening, and someone like Black Croman knows it very well. So let's undo all that, go back to the game. After f4 I played d5, and after knight f3 I played g6. I was using the Next Move Explorer statistically to look at the best lines statistically in the Master Connection database, and this plan seemed quite attractive to me, just fianchettoing the bishop and now playing knight h6. So kind of positional idea, the knight can come out to f5 and increase the pressure on the d4 square. It's kind of like playing a reverse Dutch defence. After castles, I castled, and after d3, I now played this plan of c6. So statistically this looks good from the research I carried out. The queen coming to b6 delays white in playing e4, liberating his game. So after c3 I played queen b6. And now he challenged the queen by playing queen b3. Now here, I really wanted him to take my queen so I can get pressure on the a file. I played actually knight a6, and after knight a3, I played knight c5. Well, soon, sorry, I played bishop g4 first, and now after knight c2, I played knight c5. So he took my queen. I was very pleased with that, to gain some dynamic compensation. The threat immediately of knight b3, by the way, exploiting that pin on the a pawn, so this rook blasting down there is quite handy. After knight cd4, I could have actually still played a tactical idea perhaps now of bishop takes d4 followed by knight b3, just winning that a pawn. He pointed that to me after the game. Let's have a look. Bishop takes d4, so if e takes, then knight b3, so the rook would have to move, then rook takes a2. And if here knight takes d4, knight takes d4, then bishop takes e2, knight takes, and again knight b3 wins that a pawn. So I missed my first opportunity there to win material. In this position I actually played b5, and he played b4, and now I played knight a4. I've still got some pressure though, and a pleasant position, so I was quite pleased with this antidote to the bird's system. I played knight b6 now. After h3 I took on f3, and now I played knight f5, so this knight can come to the centre. I didn't want him playing g4, preventing that knight from coming to the d6 square. So after g4, knight d6, so I'm securing prophylactically white, stopping him from playing c4 or e4. After king g2 I played rook a3 because I wanted to double up rooks, put some more pressure on a2. But he defended very solidly for a little while. With after this rook f8 he played rook c2, and after rook 1 a4. Now here he cracked up. He played his first major blunder, which even I spotted playing in this blitz correspondence game. He played bishop c1. So can you see how I just won a pawn here? 2 seconds. 1 second, 2 seconds. I played rook takes c3, winning that pawn on c3. So now I went 2 pawns up, and you would have thought it's all over now. But he played quite energetically after king f1, rook a4. He played bishop d2 now. And we're coming up to a major blunder actually. After bishop takes, knight takes, I played rook a2 and probably went away from the computer for a while, came back later because it is a correspondence game, and saw he'd played e4, and completely forgot his knight had been attacked. So that's one of the things about correspondence, especially blitz correspondence. You can actually play worse than if it's a blitz game. So here, instead of taking the knight, I played e6. And after king e1, he had actually left a message, rook takes knight, and I was wondering what he was going on about. So now I know what he's going on about. The knight was just in pre. Anyway, so I played knight a4, and after e5, I retreat this knight back to e8. And we come to a very exciting point in the game soon. After rook b3, knight c7, I'm going to put more pressure on this b pawn. So knight f3, knight a6, and after knight d4, now I try and simplify down again. I play rook b2, but after takes and knight takes, he plays f5, and all of a sudden, it didn't seem so clear to me that if I took on b4, he takes on e6, and his knight might come a pest, attacking my b7 pawn. So instead, I actually found another idea here. I took on b4, and instead of taking on e6, because he has to protect that pawn, he played king d2, and he's also threatening now to fork these knights. But here, I had an interesting idea. I'll let him fork my knights, because I want to get loads of pawns. After g takes, he played king c3, and I took on d3, so I get loads of pawns against his knight, and I thought this was quite entertaining now. So in this position, I don't want his king invading via c3 to b4, so I put a stop to that. I played b4, securing, after fg, hg, I played b4 here, securing the c3 square, so his king can't invade. And after king c2, I start marching my king up, and his position starts to get overloaded now. After king b3, c5, he retreats, just b5, stopping his king coming to a4. After g5, I now play king g6, and my king's wandering in, winning pawns now. I think he can't really defend this. It's all over. The knight is really dominated by these pawns. So after this king d3, king f4, his king comes to that side of the board, but now b3, and now these pawns just avalanche him on the queen's side. So I didn't want to play b2 here because of knight d3 check. So c4, and now after b4, he resigned. So it was quite an entertaining game. In some ways worse quality than the blitz game, in other ways more researched, at least in the opening phase. Let's have a quick overview and summary. So the bird's opening, and I found what I thought would be a good antidote, just positional treatment with knight h6. So after castles d3, I wanted to try and slow down white in playing this e4 move. I played c6, and after c3, queen b6, so this is quite an annoying pin on that e pawn. He challenged my queen, and I welcomed the queen exchange, which did give me some nice dynamic pressure, which could have immediately won a pawn here, but instead I played b5 instead of bishop takes d4. And after b4, knight a4, I still had some annoying pressure, and it did eventually lead to winning a pawn anyway. So after this doubling up of rooks, he now blundered horribly with bishop c1. So it was my chance to even the score against Black Roman. He'd done plus score against me on the site. So I played rook takes c3 here, winning 2 pawns, and I thought that would be the end of it. After king f1, rook a4, so we had some simplifications, and I managed to avoid taking his knight here. I played instead e6, trying to just thinking about hemming in his bishop, just thinking positioning instead of the obvious rook takes d2. So after king e1, now we see an interesting position emerging, where after the exchange of rooks, I went in for lots and lots of pawns, allowing him to fork my knights here. So I won lots and lots of pawns, and this was quite fun to play now. So I just needed to avoid his king infiltrating, and his knight never really had enough time to gobble my pawns here. If he had played knight b5, I'd just go for his g pawn, and he never really has time to do anything about me with all these pawns. So knight f3, b5, and it was all over really. My king just infiltrated, and now the pawn started avalanching on the queen side. So, an entertaining correspondence game. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any comments on YouTube. Thanks very much.